Amidst the surge in infections and deaths, South Africa now has the 10th highest infection rate in the world and more than half of all the cases across the African continent. President Ramaphosa last addressed the country almost a month ago when he announced the move to lockdown level 3. South Africa's total number of positive coronavirus cases now above 260,000. The number of deaths so far rising by 111 in a 24-hour period. That brings the total to 3,971. Many people have recovered from the infection. The country's recovery rate now sitting at 48.8%, lower than before though. In the last 24 hours, 51,338 new tests have been conducted, bringing the overall number of tested people in the country to more than 2 million. So what's expected tonight? SABC News' political editor Mzwandile Mbeje joins me now. What's expected from the president?
Well, good evening to you, Francis, and the viewers. Of course, we expect the president to update the nation on the work he's been doing since June 17, when he last spoke to the nation about what was called then advanced level 3. Remember that the country entered level 3 at the 1st of June, but on the 17th of June, so he opened some of the sectors like the saloons and like the some of the restaurants. So many people characterize that as advanced level 3. But Francis, you've correctly pointed out that on the 17th of last month, when he spoke to the nation, the infections were standing at actually over 80,000. Fast forward to today, we are at 264. So you can see that from that time to now, the number has risen quite sharply. And there have been calls from across the board, really, to say, well, it is not going according to script. And I think many South Africans were expecting that when their president next addressed them, he was probably going to announce further easing of measures. But under the current context, it's not possible to really ease the measures further. In fact, many people expect the restrictions to be tightened. They expect perhaps some more tougher regulations around the issue of movement of people, around the issue on the sale of alcohol. So because it is, as you have said, it is wreaking havoc. I mean, the number of people who are dead now is at close to 4,000. Then when he last addressed, it was 1,600. So yes, Francis, it's quite a serious situation. Perhaps the other issue that I can just bring forth, you'd remember the recovery rate a month ago was at around 55%, which was quite promising. But if you look at the numbers now, we are below 50%. We are hovering at around 47 to 48%, which is below 50, and that's a cause for concern. And Gauteng has taken over, is the most populous, and then that's where most of the economic activity is happening. Schools have reopened and they are continuing to open. So yes, South Africans perhaps are rightfully concerned about what's happening, Francis.
So Mzwa, you've picked up you've touched on some of the speculation that's doing the rounds, maybe that alcohol sales will be curbed or stopped completely again, maybe a curfew introduced. We know that the president is speaking to cabinet ministers this afternoon ahead of his address tonight. Are these the sorts of things are you hearing that have been discussed?
Oh yes. Remember, there's been a number of consultations, even before the cabinet meeting today. You'd remember, I think last week, when Gauteng was realizing that it was battling to deal with the spread of the infections, they basically said, well, we'll take our cry to the National Command Council to say perhaps some of the measures must be reimposed. So from there, Francis, the President and, of course, the NCC and Cabinet, they've been meeting a range of stakeholders to really find out what exactly they should do. Yes, there are perhaps things that they've been doing right. You remember we've been told that it's really in our hands. We must make sure we keep a distance, we wash our hands, and, of course, we wear our masks. But you can do all of that if the general populace is not doing it. Perhaps government needs to have a way of really repeating that message or putting that message in a manner that will make every South African understand. Because as much as, yes, government needs to lead here, but South Africans themselves as well, they need to take responsibility because it's really at this stage getting out of hand. Yeah. You did mention that we are now in the top 10. I remember, Francis, when the coronavirus was starting, and I think everyone was saying, wow, pray for Italy, because it was getting out of hand. Guess what? Today, we have long surpassed Italy. So Italy is way back now. We are, at this rate, it appears perhaps by the end of the week, would have caught up with UK. I mean, UK was a big deal itself. I mean, even the infections themselves, Francis, it's surprising. As South Africa, in terms of daily infections, we're actually number 4. I mean, so USA averages over 60,000, Brazil over 40,000, India between 20 and 30,000, and we are anything between 15, 12,000, somewhere there. So you can see that something perhaps drastic needs to be done. And for me, it would be very important, or I would actually watch closely what happens about schools. This has been a huge debate, Francis.
All right, the context around the President's address tonight, which we will bring you live at around 8 o'clock, and we'll check in with him a little bit later on, Political Editor Mzwandile Mbeje. Now,